After 3 attempts, I'm finally filming this video on my fridge, freezer, and pantry staples. The things that we always have in our household and that I'm gonna recommend to you. So when it comes to your fridge, freezer, and pantry, there's some real good basic staple items to have that are gonna get you through in times when you don't go to the shops. If there is panic buying, an item is out of stock and you just can't think of something to make, I have got some really handy tips that will see you through. Even really great if you're starting out with cooking or you've just moved out of home and you are working from scratch. So let's have a look at what we've got in the pantry. So when it comes to pantry staple items, I always find I have things I can bake with and things that I can cook with for like a lunch or dinner meal. We are a family of 4, 2 adults and 2 toddlers. One is 3.5 and one has just turned 2. So these are things that really suit our family, but they might suit you as well. Biggest staple for me is always having flour in my pantry. I just use white self-raising flour. I use it for practically anything. Almond flour, oat flour, self-raising flour. You can turn flour into multiple things. Bread, dough for pizza bases. You can use it in cookies, biscuits, pancakes, muffins. Really handy. Also, when you're using flour, you can also make sauces out of it to thicken sauces. And I find what complements flour really well is sugar. Now, I have white sugar and brown sugar. You can get healthy alternatives now like coconut sugar, anything that you can sort of sweeten to use for sweet and savory dishes. There are times when I will use sugar if I'm making a homemade chutney. I will put sugar into it. Sometimes I'll put a little bit of sugar into my coffee. Sometimes I have sugar in my cakes, muffins, and those sort of things. Really handy staple, and I do use it quite a bit. Cereal. No, not just any cereal. I think it's really handy to have a bland cereal. Wheat Bix, Cocoa Pops, corn flakes. You can turn these into a breadcrumb. So if you're doing a chicken schnitzel, you can literally crush down cornflakes, Wheat Bix, and turn it into the crumbing of the chicken. You can use these into your cooking, so you can use them for biscuits. A really handy thing to have, and the kids like to snack on these too. So I always love having plain, unsweetened cereal in our pantry. You can never go wrong, salt and pepper. Salt and pepper are just like Jack and Jill, 2 peas in a pod. Salt and pepper on top of some fish is better than a plain piece of fish. They just add flavor to so many things. So salt and pepper for me is just always a guarantee when I'm doing cooking. Complement your salt and pepper. I always like to have some mixed herbs. These are just mixed herbs I pick up from Coles. I buy them in bulk, put them into a glass jar because I use them a lot. I use them in flavoring stews, spaghetti bolognese, making garlic breads. I make homemade focaccias with them. It is really handy to have. So if you're looking for a herb, mixed herbs will get you a lot further. If you want to narrow down your herbs a little bit more, I use a lot of rosemary, dried rosemary. I do have fresh rosemary in our garden, but dried rosemary is really nice just to add to certain meals to get has a nice fragrance to it. I find rosemary just has that very distinctive smell, and I think most people like rosemary compared to oregano, which I do have. It's not a very popular flavor or smell or taste for certain people. Now, when it comes to more of your seasonings, I think it's good to have something. This is like a smoked hot paprika, very handy to have. And then I also use a lot of ground cinnamon. Now, it depends on your taste buds, but I think having something sweet to season your foods with, this is great for baking. And then having something that's a bit more of a hot or a spicy is good also to season like your red meats and those sort of things. Salt, pepper will get you through, but if you want to take it to the next level and have a bit more in your pantry for flavorings, something that's got more of a kick behind it and something that's got more of a sweetness sort of zen to it's quite nice. Now for me, a big pantry staple is having an oil in the pantry. I don't really use the spray oils. If I had to pick one, I would go for a bottle one. A bottle one because you can measure things out and pour it in. I think they work out more cost effective and more environmentally friendly buying the glass bottles. I buy it in bulk and then just top the bottle up as I use it. Olive oil is probably not the best neutral one to have. If I had to pick a neutral one, I would go vegetable oil or canola oil. Very handy, but we do like using olive oil. I can make salad dressings out of it. I put it in cakes. I use it to season the pan if we're doing barbecue. Marinades are really handy thing to have in your pantry, believe it or not, is just oil. Now, following on from oil, I do find it really handy to have vinegar. With vinegar, white vinegar, I just buy the cheap stuff from Coles. This is great. I use it for in the baking in regards to the home. I do use white vinegar to make my own cleaning product. I do find white vinegar I use a lot in regards to cooking with fish. I use it to make homemade salad dressings. I pickled my own cucumbers. I pickle my own onions. White vinegar is a very versatile item to use, and it is used sometimes in baking. Really weird fact there, but it is used in baking. The next thing I like to have is some sort of a sauce. Now, whether that's tamari, soy sauce, teriyaki sauce, coconut aminos. This is the soy sauce. I think that's just really handy to have, again, if you want another depth of flavor for something instead of sticking to just your salt and pepper and your oil. Something along this kind of lines will just bring you a bit more further into the journey when you're doing your cooking and baking at home. Now, pantry staples. Depends on when you're watching this video. There was a lot of panic buying in the past couple of months and things were really hard to get. For example, flour and eggs. I always love to have things handy like quinoa and some kind of a noodle, really handy backup. So we could not get noodles to make spaghetti bolognese for about 4 weeks. I had heaps in the freezer of the mince, but I literally could not make spaghetti bolognese for my kids because I love the noodles. You can actually make savory and sweet things out of these. You could make a stir fry with them. You can actually fry them up and make them crispy once they're cooked. You can make them sweet. You can bake them in the oven. Very handy thing to have. And same with quinoa. Quinoa can be used as a substitute for your rice. You can bulk it up in your salads. Good filler, and it takes on a really good flavor if you're adding certain things to it that you already have in your pantry. You can turn a really bland quinoa salad or a quinoa side dish into something a lot more tasty. And then the last couple of things I love to have in the pantry, a really good staple. Nothing wrong with a tin of tomatoes. Tin of tomatoes, I can make a spag bowl. I can make some sort of Italian sauce to go through some pasta. Tin tomatoes can make a tomato soup, can beef up a vegetable soup, stews, homemade pies. I mean, who doesn't have a pantry without tin tomatoes? The other thing I really like to have is coconut milk. Coconut milk is great for cooking with and baking with, making curries with from scratch. You can make breakfast with them. You just get some chia seeds as your coconut milk. You can put coconut milk as a substitute for baking. So if you run out of fresh milk, coconut milk is a good substitute. I find it very handy and we do use them, and I always make sure I'm stocked in the pantry with coconut milk. Now, the only type of meat I will eat from a can, for me, is salmon. My husband is tuna. I don't do the spam in a can. Spam in a ham. Ham in a can. Spam. So I think these are just really handy to have again. So if you run out of produce and it's the end of the week, there's nothing wrong with having tuna on toast. I mean, it's totally fine. You could make tuna bake with some leftover pasta that you've got. You could make, if you don't have pasta, you could use your quinoa, tuna, use your flour to make a sauce, salt and pepper, some herbs on top, and you could make a meal out of that quite easily. And then I remember when I was at uni and I used to live off this stuff. Baked beans. Now, baked beans or spaghetti, I've actually run out of spaghetti and I can't get it in the shops at the moment, but I always find it handy having a tin of spaghetti or baked beans. I remember watching a show, I think it was MasterChef, and one of the really famous judges, I can't think of his name, Matt Preston it might be, he actually made a really nice meal just out of baked beans. And I wish I remember what it was. It had like 4 ingredients and he used baked beans, and I was just like, that looks gourmet. So there's nothing wrong with a tin of baked beans. I'm a bit weird. I like putting barbecue sauce with my baked beans, but you know, kids love them. Nothing wrong with having a tin of baked beans for a dinner. Under $2, you can feed a couple kids. All right, I've just taken some stuff out my fridge that I think are essentials that we use probably on a daily basis, and that I think are a must-have in a fridge. And it's kind of sad. It's only a couple of things, but let me show you and I'll explain. So look, I think it's really important to have fresh produce, vegetables and fruit and whatnot, but I'm talking like basic essential things to have that you wouldn't think to have in your fridge. So for us, it would be mustards. With mustards, you can flavor your steak. You can make salad dressings with mustards. We've actually got quite a few. So this is mild English mustard. We've got mustard seed. We've got French mustard. They're really handy to have to really bring out flavor in your dishes. I even use it as a marinade. Really nice. The next one I had, I literally went through my fridge door and picked out a bunch of stuff. Curry paste. I usually have green. I've only got red at the moment, but red curry paste. Again, put that with some coconut milk. You can make a really, really nice Thai red curry. Add your veggies, bam, she's done. So I love having things like this in the fridge. Believe it or not, Greek yogurt. You can actually make pizza base with Greek yogurt. I think it's like 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of Greek yogurt. Make a dough, roll it out, and you can get yourself a pizza base. Greek yogurt is a really good substitute for sour cream. It is healthier, cooks the same, works the same. We really like it. I learned that from Jamie Oliver. And my kids have flavored yogurt. I don't mind giving them flavored yogurt, but if I do run out, I just get Greek yogurt and put like a dollop of jam and mix it around, and my kids love it. So this is a really good fridge staple that we probably eat a tub of this a week with what we use it on. And the next one I've got is butter. Actual butter. Now we do have margarine, so like olive spread in our house, but I find butter is very, very handy for cooking and for baking. I'm not talking like chunks and wads of fat butter, but if I'm going to be making a garlic bread, I can use some butter, garlic, the mixed herbs, and I've got garlic bread. I use this for baking a lot. I do like to use proper fattening butter in my baking. There are substitutes. When I was dairy free, I did use Nutlex. It was fine, but I do find butter does work better. I love to have butter. I use it in lots of things. If I'm making sauces, sage burnt butters and that sort of thing, I will go to proper butter. When I'm making sandwiches and things like that for the children, we'll just use normal olive spread. And then I love having fresh things like ginger. Ginger in the house. This one's probably looking a little bit sad. I probably need to use it. We do have jar ginger, but I find fresh ginger grating it brings out more flavor. So literally you could go ginger, soy sauce, salt, pepper, oil, beautiful marinade for some chicken, everything you've got at home. No need to buy a jar that's pre-made, that's full of preservatives, that's costing you more money. This is a lot more cost-effective way of having certain things in your home. Okay guys, lastly, I'm bringing you into my freezer. I'm going to show you some things that we have. Again, real basic core staples that we find really handy. The first one is frozen fruit. We have a lot. My husband has probably 2 smoothies a day. I just find they're really handy. If the kids want to make muffins, I can chuck in some raspberries for them. I love freezing. My child didn't eat the rest of her banana the other day. I freeze it. My husband will use it in his smoothie. So freezing fruit is a really great thing to do if it's starting to go off. And sometimes it's cheaper to buy frozen fruit when it's not in season than it is to buy it fresh. When strawberries start to go off, I literally cut them up and bag them. My kids like to eat them frozen, or sometimes I can chuck them into smoothies. And the other thing I love to do, if you have tinned fruit, save the juice, keep the juice and freeze it, and then you can use it if you're going to make a smoothie or a cake or a sauce to go on top of the cake. Just boil up the juice, turn it into a syrup. Perfect. And technically it didn't cost you anything, because you would have thrown the juice from the tins down the drain. Okay, so our next item that I think is very essential to have, particularly if you've got children in your home, is bread. I always have bread in the freezer for those emergencies. Holy crap, I've run out of something. We've always got bread. So at the moment we've got bread rolls. Super handy to have. I can make burgers out of them. If, you know, things go really south in the morning and I don't have bread, I can always cut these up and turn it into toast for the kids. They're not going to know the difference. I can turn that into garlic bread. I mean, bread's bread, guys. It's really handy to have. And next big one for us is always having some type of protein frozen in the freezer. And this has been untouched in regards to just plain sausages, plain chicken breast, handy to have. But in saying that, it's also very handy to have your protein turned into some sort of meal. So up the top there, I actually think this is a vegetarian one. That's a vegetarian green curry. This one here is actually a spag bowl. And then this one here is actually a sweet and sour chicken. Very to have meals like these pre-made, where all you have to do is cook quinoa, cook noodles, cook rice, and you've got a meal prepared. Also love having for the kids something frozen that I've pre-made. So these are actually just some homemade muesli bars. Handy, so if I run out of food or it's the end of the week or my kids are just eating like there's no tomorrow, I've got backup. If you're a parent, you'll know what I mean. Now, I'm not one for having like packaged food, but it does happen. That's just the way life goes sometimes. And I love having frozen fish. This isn't the brand that we usually love and eat all the time, but it's the only one we could get at the moment, which is just the Bird's Eye oven baked fish. My kids love it. My husband and I eat it. It's just handy for those nights when you literally can't be bothered. Chuck that in the oven, vegetables, dinner, done. And we also love to do the same for meat pies. These are the kid-sized ones. And this is the brand I absolutely love. If I can't be bothered making my own, Herbert Adams, I get them from Coles. Handy to have, again, pop them in the oven, have it for lunch. They can just have a pie for lunch. Nothing wrong with that. And then lastly, in the freezer, I love having puff pastry. With puff pastry, I can make my own sausage rolls. I can make my own homemade meat pies. I can make some Nutella swirls, peanut butter swirls, sweet and savory. Love having them. I am going to get asked where I get this container from, where I store my puff pastry in. I do not know. It was given to me. It is actually a Pampers one, but I haven't been able to find where you can actually purchase these. Potentially try eBay. That's it, guys. I feel like this video is a bit boring because I'm literally showing you things in my pantry, fridge and freezer, but I think it's also really useful too if you're just starting out or you're wanting to get some real basics going and try and move away from jarred and processed foods. I'm not saying everything I have in my house is preservative, organic and natural and, you know, good for the soul. But look, if you did enjoy this video, let me know. Let me know some things that you have in your pantry, fridge or freezer as staples. I'd like to get more ideas on things that you have. If you enjoyed this video, I'd really love you to give me a thumbs up because it does indicate that you do like these kind of videos. Stay tuned. I've got more coming soon for you.